Alright, this is the lecture video for section 1.8. We're talking about exponents, roots, and order of operations. So first thing we're going to talk about are the vocabulary terms. A base is the large number in an exponent problem, meaning actual size, okay, not value, but 3 meaning that larger number there is your base. The base is the number that you multiply. The exponent is the small floating number that's attached to the base, so as seen right here below. An exponent tells us how many of the base we have. So taking this example problem, we have 3 being multiplied together twice, meaning we have 2 of the base. This is not a 3 times 2 problem, it is a 3 times 3 problem, which is a 9 answer. Okay, so let's try several of these to kind of help us make sense of these. 4 to the 3rd power means I have 4 times 4 times 4. This is not 12. 4 times 4 is 16. And then 16 times that 4 I haven't used gives me 64 as an answer. Okay, so let's do 2 to the 5th power. It means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 5 times, right? 5 of them. And so I have 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. And bring down the 2 I haven't used. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 2 gives me a final answer of 32 for this one. Okay, let's look at another one. 1 squared, or 1 to the 2nd power, means I have 1 times 1, which is just 1. A lot of people want to say 2 right there. You're just multiplying. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 0 is 1. This is a special rule. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So 1/2 to the 0 power is 1. And 2,346 to the 0 power equals 1. So it doesn't matter what the number is. Anything raised to the 0 power is an answer of 1. All right, so square roots. We're going to talk about square roots. The first one is going to be the square root of 64. First of all, how did I get 64? We're looking for 2 factors, and we learned about factors being 2 numbers multiplied together. 2 factors that are identical, meaning they're the same number, that multiply together to give me 64. And I find that 8 times 8 are the 2 factors that match, that multiply together to give me 64. And so when I simplify this, I know that 8 times 8 is also 8 squared. That's what that is, a little exponent of 2. And a square root and a squared cancel each other out, and so this gives me a final answer of 8. So the square root of 64 is 8. All right, let's try another one. The square root of 49. 2 numbers that multiply together to give me 49 would be 7 and 7. Remember, when I'm going through this process, I have to have 2 matching numbers, 2 factors that are identical. When I rewrite this, I end up writing 7 squared because it tells me how many of those bases I have. And I know that a square root and a squared cancel out, and it gives me just 7 as a final answer. So the square root of 49 is 7. All right, what about one that looks like this, the square root of 47? There are no 2 factors, like this and this, that multiply together to give me 47. No 2 identical factors that multiply together to give me 47. So this one is not a perfect square. So that one can't be simplified. All right, so now we're going to get ready and start working a few of your order of operations problems. Before I do that, I want to talk about the rules. All right, so what you see here are the initials or the beginning letters of each of the rules. And this says PEMDAS. So a lot of you know that rule as PEMDAS, and some of you know it as please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So this tells me that these are my rules. So parentheses, E is for exponents. M and D are, I was taught that they were separates, but they're actually the same rule. They go on the same level, I'll write them all together here. And M and D is multiply and divide, and we're going to take care of this one moving from left to right through our problem. Also, the last one is add. and subtract. And we also solve all of the add and subtract moving from left to right through our problems. So these are the things that you need to know before we start working any order of operations, meaning any problem that has more than just add or subtract. If it has multiple things mixed together in one problem, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're calling order of operations. All right, so let's look at our first problem. I have 8 squared plus 5 plus 2. So we're talking about parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. So are there any parentheses? Remember, parentheses are dividers, so they look like this. They're going to be little bracket looking things, or they could be little swiggle looking things like this. So I don't see anything in that problem, so we're going to mark that off and move on to the next one. Exponents I see right here, and remember that 8 squared is the same thing as 8 times 8, which becomes 64. I'm going to bring down everything I haven't used. Okay, we're going to mark off exponents because we took care of those. Now we're at that step where we do multiply and divide. And I actually don't see any multiply and divide in this problem. I only see add. And remember, we solve add from left to right going through the problem. So if I add from the left side, I end up with 69. I bring down what I haven't used, which is 2. I add there, and I end up with a final answer of 71. All right, let's try another one. 35 divided by 5 times 6. No parentheses, no exponent, and no add subtract. I only see multiply and divide in this problem, and we solve this moving from left to right. So the first thing that we do is we're going to divide, and 35 divided by 5 gives me 7. I bring down the 6 that I haven't used. It's multiply right there, and so 7 times 6 gives me a final answer of 42. I have 9 plus 20 minus 4 times 3. I do have parentheses, and I'm going to take care of inside the parentheses first. So I'm going to subtract 20 minus 4, and I'm going to get 16. I'm going to bring down the things I haven't used. I have no exponents, but I do have multiply. And I'm going to multiply here and get 16 times 3 gives me 48. Bring down what I haven't used. The only thing I have left is to add, and 9 plus 48 gives me an answer of 57. I have 12 times the square root of 16 minus 8 times 4. Every single time you have to use the order of operations. So also something we haven't talked about is exponents happen at the same time, square roots would be simplified at the same time that you would be doing exponents. So I have parentheses, but inside these parentheses I just have a 4. There's nothing being added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided. So basically those parentheses are not really parentheses except for they're telling me to multiply. So we're down, no parentheses. I don't have an exponent, but I do have a square root, so I'm going to simplify that now and bring down everything I haven't used. So there's 12 times, remember that the square root of 16 is 4 times 4, which is the square root of 4 squared. The squared and the square root cancel, so 4 is that answer. And minus 8 times 4 comes down. All right, so my exponents and square roots are done. Now I'm ready to multiply, and I'm going to multiply here and here. And so 12 times 4 gives me 48, and negative 8, I guess I'll bring down my negative here, and 8 times 4 gives me 32. I need to subtract here, and 48 minus 32 gives me a final answer of 16. Ouch. 4 squared times 2 squared plus 7 plus 3 times 2. All right, I do have parentheses. Inside the parentheses, I'm going to add and get 10. I'm going to bring down everything I haven't used. Oops, that's a multiplication sign. My exponents are 4 squared, which is 4 times 4, which is 16, and 2 times 2, which is 4. Bring down everything I haven't used. This, and then this became that, and this became this. Okay, so exponents are done. Now I'm at multiply, so I'm going to multiply here and here. 16 times 4 gives me 64, and 2 times 10 gives me 20. I'm going to add in the very end, and I end up with 84. So make sure that you are writing down your rules and you are following those every single time you look at a new problem.